have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once. I am one of those melodramatic fools, neurotic to the bone, no doubt about it. Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up. Am I just paranoid? Am I just stoned?
Welcome to the Jim Reith Show Unleashed, podcast episode number 33. This is going to be a music-oriented show, as well as an SU show, because Brent Axe will be here. Dave Frisina is going to join us. Remember Dave Frisina, a local DJ for years and years and years, did sound check, now he does an independent show. He's in Florida with the Gators and the
Soulshine, right?
Soulshine. It's awesome. And when he did the show here, it was fantastic. But yeah, it's great. So we'll talk to him about that. And our Yahoo of the week is music-oriented as well. It's whoever decided on TK99, which I love, by the way, whoever decided that Thunder Island is classic rock is incorrect.
That would be more of the yacht rock thing, right?
Yeah, it's not classic rock. Thunder Island, dude. You know what song I'm talking about?
On Thunder Island.
Yes. That's not classic rock. Come on. I'm driving over here today and to the Inner Sanctum, and it's like, what is this?
That would be something that would stump me on rock and roll bingo trivia night that I do Mondays at Brick and Brew in North Syracuse. I host it. It's a game where I play a song and the players have the artists on the bingo card.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I would play Thunder Island. Now, if I was playing, I wouldn't know. That would be one that I would not know who does that song.
It's Jay
I'm going to Google it right now.
It's Jay something. Jay.
Because it's going to bother me.
Something.
Thunder Island song.
Number one, it's a terrible song.
Jay Ferguson, very good. You got Jay.
Jay Ferguson.
Dude, wicked 70s, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Big old hair, big old mustache.
Yes. Yeah, so that's our Yahoo of the week. But we're going to talk about music today because Brent is a huge Dave Matthews fan, and he was at the concert the other night. Producer Bill was at the concert, so we'll talk about that.
He stepped out of his sports journalist shoes and got into his music critic shoes.
So he likes Dave Matthews, Bruce Springsteen, and Pearl Jam
a lot.
Those are his
and those are
three big ones.
And I'm watching the show now. We're recording this on Wednesday, so it was Tuesday night. I was watching the show last night, and like the Dave Matthews, the Pearl Jams, that's like my generation's Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah,
as in
it
like
is for you,
the big rock songwriting.
Yes.
I know Dave has got is a very jam type, but it's still that vibe where he's playing 3 hours,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where Springsteen was always known to play 3. Billy Joel was always known to play 3 hours. Those legends play that long. Nowadays, you go to a concert,
it's an hour.
You're lucky you get an hour.
Yeah.
That's like I took Ari to this, and we'll talk about this later. I saw ICP this past weekend. They played an hour.
Insane Clown Posse, for those of you who don't know.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
We'll do it on the back end.
A little inside baseball for you. We do it on the back end.
The back end.
We call it the out. See? Dave Matthews is great. It was at the Amp, right? So that's what I wanted to ask you. So, did you stand the whole time, or did you have seats
we
underneath?
Had seats. So now I don't mind getting the pit that's right in front of the stage but we got seats last night, and I found myself a couple times wanting to sit a little bit. So it was good. Yeah, we're sitting like 2 rows behind the pit in the amphitheater.
Pit.
There's right in front of the stage for a lot of the shows at the Amp. It's standing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's about maybe 8 rows are pulled out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like 7 or 8 rows are pulled. So I was in row H, but it was actually the second row of seats under the amphitheater.
Now, can you see when people are standing?
Yes.
You still can see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm sitting and they're standing, no, I wouldn't be able to put it because we're so close. Everybody was kind of standing the whole time.
Right.
But there was a couple slow songs that took a load off for a couple. Because he played for 2.5 hours.
I can't stand the whole time. I can't, and I can't afford seats underneath the cover.
This was normally my wife is the lawn. She loves lawn. Now she can go. I'm not a lawn kind of person. I just don't. You don't. There's yapping and you can't concentrate on the show. So, but this one, she's like, we got it. The first time I took her to Dave the first year here, she's been hooked ever since. We always have to have seats, and they keep getting more expensive.
Yeah.
I think the first year they were like, I want to say they were $100. They were $200 for last night, and that's not like official platinum. That's regular standard tickets at the box office price.
No, I'm not doing it. Now, I've seen Dave Matthews, so I'm good. I'm not a huge fan. I like him, but I saw him when I did my show from the stadium when he was playing at the stadium.
And that was a great show.
Yes, it was. And I had great seats.
Yeah, we
awesome.
saw an extra hour and a half show sound check.
Yep.
And he did one of those songs last night. He did Sledgehammer last night.
He did.
Yeah. I don't know we'll talk about it with Axe, but he's whoever he's working with, a vocal teacher or vocal coach, has done wonders to him. Some of the songs last night, I'm like, wow.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he sounds great. And it's very, Dave has got a very unique vocal sound.
Right.
But powerful. And that band is just out of its
Yeah, the band is crazy. The band's always been crazy. So tight and ridiculous. Don't miss a trick. They're crazy good. All right, you ready to go? Let's get on with this.
Yeah, we'll start this, and then we'll come back.
Let's go. It's time for our Back in the Day segment. We're going to go back in the day for this segment, for this next gentleman who's a local legend, certainly. And when it comes, when you talk about promoting local music, I mean, this is the guy. And so by that clue, you have guessed that it is Dave Frisina. How are you, Dave?
Hi, good to see you, Jim.
It's great to see you, too. Now, you're living the life in Florida with the Gators and the boas and iguanas and giant bugs and stuff.
You don't like any of that stuff, do you?
I do not do any of that stuff, no. So how's that been? First of all, how's the culture shock moving from here to a place like Florida?
Well, it's a big lifestyle change for me. We came down here to help take care of my mom about 3.5, 4 years ago, and it's sunnier. I mean, I can give it that. It's sunny all the time down here. I used to, I'd go out in the parking lot and stare up at the sky whenever the sun came out. It was so rare, but here it's like always sunny. So, I mean, that's a great thing. But, there's no music scene, frankly, like the area around Syracuse and central New York. And I miss that and my friends associated with it more than anything. But otherwise, you make an adjustment. I live 2 miles from Rainbow Spring Park, and so I volunteer there. And the longer you're at anywhere, the more responsibilities they give you, and I went from boat captain to board member to vice president within 2 years. So,
wow.
It's
nice.
Eventually I'll find something that isn't volunteer, but, in the meantime.
Yeah, well, why? I mean, you're retired, man, like me. We're living the life, living the dream right now. That's for sure.
Right,
now,
right.
You mentioned the local music scene, Dave, and no one ever did as much as you did to promote local music on the radio in Syracuse. And everyone knows that, and so it's got to be hard to step away from that because, like you said, there's no real thriving music scene. I'm sure there is where you are, but not like there is here.
Well, I mean, there really isn't where I'm at. I'm in North Central Florida. It's horse country, and I mean, there's just not a lot. It's very rural. I'm an hour from Gainesville and an hour and a half from Orlando, and almost 2 hours from Clearwater, St. Pete. So, I mean, those are the bigger cities where you might find something going on. But again, I'm in a spot where it's just it's a lot quieter. There's occasionally get a solo performer at a bar or something, but it's not like the music scene, and so many clubs and venues and theaters and indoor and outdoor places to see music as Syracuse. So, I've been able to find some people and some friends and some bands along the way, and I've started to hook up with some people, like-minded people. I found a station down in St. Petersburg, whose motto is "Where local music lives." And I'm like, that sounds like
Yeah, hello.
we'll have a good fit with you guys. So they just picked up my Soulshine show, and so it's running there, and I'm going to hopefully start to contribute more with them. And then then I was able to find somebody that was looking to fill a space up at WVBR in Ithaca, which
Yep.
I went to school at Cortland State, so it was right down the road from me. One of the first stations I listened to when I went to college, and it's still on the air.
Oh, it's a
In fact, they
great
have a
station.
Uh-oh.
What?
We lost him.
Hmm.
There he goes.
That's the first time that's ever happened.
I know.
So keep talking about the Ithaca station picking up your show.
Yeah, so I heard that WVBR was looking to fill a couple of weekend slots, and I got in touch with them. I let them know that I have a history of listening to that radio station and being in that area, going to shows. I mean, I went to shows back in the 70s in Ithaca at Bailey Hall and Barton Hall, and so they found a slot for me, and so now I can do a 1-hour version of my show and make it a little bit more regional. The show that I do normally, I'll feature some Syracuse bands from time to time, and I work in some now Florida-based bands on the 3-hour Soulshine show on Sundays. But now they wanted to do a Saturday show. It's a 1-hour show, and it can be a little bit more regional and a little more focused on the Ithaca, Central New York area.
Oh yeah, that'll be great. Because there's a lot of good bands from both areas for sure. So were you looking to do that, Dave? Were you looking to expand into radio stations as like a 1-hour package show? Were you looking to do that?
I'm always looking for more platforms to put the show on, because I think what I'm putting together, there's not a lot of places that do what I do. There are some stations, some big name stations in certain cities, but what I do is more of a mix of what progressive FM radio used to be. It's
Right.
a mix of older tracks and compatible new music, because I get a lot of friends of mine that say, well, I used to listen to all this great music from the 70s and 80s, and I don't, nobody's doing that anymore. The problem is that radio stations, as you know, went from being AOR, which was like album-oriented rock back in the FM days, to splitting into being classic rock or alternative or top 40. So there's no station that really, nowadays an AOR, if it was around, would feature, things from the 70s, all the way up to Tedeschi Trucks and the Wood Brothers and Jason Isbell and some of these bands that nobody's playing except for what's now known as AAA, adult alternative album stations. But anyway, to make a long story short, I like to find stations or platforms that are looking for the kind of mix that I put together. And it's geared towards anybody that really likes music that they can't find on the radio currently, because radio playlists, as many people know, have gotten tighter to play, to button down right down to playing just nothing but the hits. And there's a lot of people that want to hear something a little bit more than that, and string things together. Try to put things together where you're putting something from the 70s into something that came out last week, and you're finding a common connection. You're finding compatibility. You're being able to segue between eras based on what the music has to say. So, there are people that think like me, a few here and there. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not really shopping the show around, but when I find the right place to put it, then I get in touch with them and say, hey, maybe we can work together,
No, I think it's great. I do. I thought it's a perfect fit. Especially the station in Ithaca. I think it's absolutely a perfect fit. And like you said, nobody's doing it, and there's a huge market for it. There's a huge market for it not only in our generation, Dave, but even people behind us like that music. And it's very interesting to see somebody from that even generation dig the 70s and the 80s and the stuff that's like, deeper cuts that you never ever hear anywhere.
Well, it's evident when you see things like, the shows that take place at Beacon Skiff or at CMAC or at Grassroots Festival. The bands that play at these things draw big crowds, but good luck finding a radio station that plays any of their music. That's what I was doing when I was in Syracuse on the Rebel, and it was very successful, finding promoters and venues that wanted somebody that could play the music that they're bringing in front of sold out shows. I don't understand. I don't know why that group of people, the crowd that can draw live shows, isn't represented on the radio um, as much as it should be. And so, and you're right, it can be everybody from people in their 20s to people in their 70s, frankly. So, um, and it is music for people that like going to see shows. They're active listeners. Music is a part of their lives. It may not be the first most important thing, but it's certainly something that they still want to spend time with. And so again, I try to when I put music together, it's not random. It's not a computer just spitting out a playlist. It's I try to come up with theme sets or based on how the flow of the music is together. To me, it's like painting a picture or something. It's a or making a mixtape for friends. There's a flow to it, and I don't think the human element has been taken out of programming nowadays. Everything is
Completely.
computers.
Yep. I just read an
Algorithms
article.
can't replace.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the best algorithm is going to give you the kind of music that you like, but it's not going to really going to mix it up. It's not going to bring in. And I think that the human element can put together songs that sometimes have a theme lyrically that a computer can't. And so again, I think that there was something to that back when FM radio was really peaking in the 70s and 80s, when DJs were being creative instead of just hosting music.
Yes. Yep. It's funny too because today, Bill and I later on the show we're going to talk a lot about music, and I was thinking about the music scene on the radio here locally as I was coming over to the Inner Sanctum here, and it's woeful. It's terrible. I listen to I-100 out of Cortland. I listen to OUR, Utica Rome. Those are better stations than like the classic stuff that we have here. But again, no one has. I think that's why Sirius does so well because people can, really collate their own stuff, but you get to hear stuff you don't hear everywhere else. And I think there's a hunger for that. And I think you've nailed it and did when you were on the Rebel and always did, actually. And when you did the local show. And it's too bad. But what's interesting to me is I was listening to you, Dave, just now. I'm thinking that, you and I are both retired. And there's a lot of us from that generation of radio here that are done now. But you're so passionate about this. That's what comes clear to me. You're so passionate about music and about the music that you enjoy and want other people to enjoy, and that's why you're still doing what you're doing, right?
Well, I mean, when I was growing up listening to music, it was like when people love reading books because they get caught up in the adventure. They get caught up in letting their imagination hear things and see things when they're reading or movies or TV. But radio can be like that. It can be a theater of the mind, or it can just be a jukebox. And I love listening to music because I think that there's ways that it's very relevant, that people can relate to it, and if it's put together right, it's something that I like doing. I've liked music ever since I started playing. I was in a band when I was in fourth grade. Well, not the kind of band you're thinking. I was playing trumpet. I think that the first song that I ever played on stage at Mills Pond Elementary on St. James, Long Island, was Moon River on trumpet. But I mean, over the years, it went from band to symphonic wind ensemble to jazz band to marching band, and then when I got to college, all of that switched, and a friend of mine introduced me to the college radio station in Cortland, and then I could start to create music. I couldn't make it myself, but I could create it with taking music from other people and putting it together. And so that there was, again, it's like if you have a box of 64 crayons, some people will only use 2 or 3.
Right.
I want to use all of them.
I do too. I agree, and I think that has shown through in your career. Without question. Do you have a question, Bill?
Yes. Do you think radio can come back?
Everything can come back. I think that for a lot of it, it's hit a wall, and a lot of them
Big
are
time.
just they're in such a safety zone. They've scared away or fired or gotten rid of or disenfranchised the most creative people. I think for the most part, there's good morning shows. There's good people that are still trying to do what they do. They've gotten rid of a lot of people that put music first. And I think the best places for me to find music, and for a lot of my friends, is through the non-commercial stations, where they aren't dependent on returning dollars to shareholders, and the community supports them, and they support the community, and it's a symbiotic relationship where, you can sometimes the music is a little bit scattered. You hear a reggae hour and a folk hour and a this hour and a that, but overall you're going to hear more diversity and more creativity, and to me, that's the most interesting radio. That's the most personalized and localized radio. It's not being dictated by, a consultant from 10 states away, and it's not on a computer generated playlist. It's real people doing what they like to do. And sometimes it's a little corny, and sometimes it's really, it transcends everything else. It can be, I think that radio, if it's done right, can still be very relevant. But I think a lot of people have just gotten into a safety zone where they're going to play the same 400 songs, and they're going to voice track. I mean, they'll get a DJ from somewhere else, so they don't have to pay him to be the voice for that radio station. And then you're not being local. Nobody knows who they are. I did that for a while. When I was on Westwood One, I was, voicing stations from, Pocatello, Idaho to Presque Isle, Maine, so I mean,
Yep.
I get it, but it's not the same. And I think that for radio to survive, they've got to take a step back. They've got to, become the kind of localized radio stations where the DJs are a bigger part of the plan and have a little bit more say in what they're doing. And it isn't just being driven solely by, as much money as they can possibly make over the,
Yep.
When in Syracuse, what's the average commute? 17 minutes, 15
Right, yep.
minutes?
Yep.
The average spot break now is 7 or 8 minutes. I mean, you can sit in a car on a radio station and you'll be where you're going and hear nothing but commercials for that 7 or 8 minutes.
That's right. That's true. Yes, absolutely true. Yes. I can't stand it.
And that's why this medium, podcasting,
Right.
is becoming such in the forefront, especially with travel.
And then what Dave does is it's the same thing. It's if people can hear Dave Frisina here, and you're in Florida doing your thing, I mean that's the beauty of it. I mean we have to embrace the new media, and we have to, and companies that didn't are lagging, of course. But then you have the greed factor, and you have, you hire one guy and he does 20 radio stations, and it's awful. If you listen to 194 was a great radio station for a very, very long time, and you listen to it now and it just sucks. I mean, the content, the music is a joke. Some of the music's okay. The content is non-existent. There is no meaningful. It's word salad, meaningless.
There's
going
no soul.
between songs. No soul at all. None whatsoever.
Well, Jim, the fallback is that a lot of these people all use the same prep services. So that's a service that gives you information on a daily basis. And so when you're voice tracking, or you're getting voice trackers from out of town, what they're going to do is they're all on the same prep service. So they're all going to say today's day in history, and this song came out in 1975, and and then make a joke about a current event, and they're all going to tell the same joke. It's just, oh my God, it's just, I mean, it's color by numbers, and again, they've driven out a lot of creative people, a lot of younger people. I was speaking to a high school class in Ocala a couple of weeks ago, and there's a lot of young people. We asked how many people listen to radio, and I mean, half of them don't. They make up their own little playlist on Spotify or Apple, or with their friends, because radio isn't relevant to them anymore. I mean, I don't care what they're playing. It's just because they don't know the DJs. They're using formats that may have been successful 20 years ago, but now they're just playing what they think are the hits. And radio stations, even record companies, can't control them the way they used to be able to.
No.
It used to be in the 70s, 80s, 90s. If a record company was coming out with a song, they could pretty much dictate to the radio stations in their format, look, we want all of you to be on this song for X amount of time to push this song. And there were ways that they would incentivize radio stations to do that. But it worked because, everybody was hearing the same songs at the same time, and it was making some of those songs into hits that are still hits today. Well, now there's just so much music and so many ways to get music that people have just kind of fallen back, and it's not the same. It's just, they can say, well, a lot of people still listen to radio. I'm like, yes, you're measuring the same audience over and over, but what about all the people that stopped listening, that found other places to go? There's a lot of people that if they were given a choice, they might go back to radio. I think for anybody at a radio station, this is to answer a question from earlier, is radio, what's the history, the future of radio? The hardest thing for radio right now is to win people back.
Right.
It's trying to convince people, look, we want to bring you back into the way it used to be. And again, the non-com stations are the ones doing the best job at that.
Right.
Because they're being supported by people in their communities. That station down in Radio St. Pete is one of those stations where it's almost all volunteer run, and they do things. It's very low key. I mean, it's very hands-on. They even broadcast like press conferences from the mayor. They'll do things a lot. It's in a place like St. Pete, Tampa St. Pete, the greater Tampa St. Pete area is probably like 3 million people.
Yeah, it's big.
But Tampa St. Pete is smaller as a entity, but they're very ground level, and very feet on the ground. And in fact, like I said, I think that right now more than half of their programming is local artists, which is, that makes me going, what are you doing? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But so now that instead of having, all national hits and then a little segment of local music, they're all local music. And my show is like, oh, you're going to play some national acts for an hour, for a couple hours. I'm like, oh man.
Wow.
It's a flip side situation for me,
Yeah, you never hear that of a station like that anymore. They used to exist, but they're very, very rare now. That's for sure.
Well, back in the day, like WLF, they used to break local bands when they were a top 40 AM station, and NDR and FBL, they would be playing local bands. And then it got out of fashion. And again, when 95X first went on the air in 1978, we were playing Todd Hoban Band. We were playing the New York Flyers. We were playing the Flash Cubes. But eventually, that all got squeezed out because everyone wanted to play, the biggest things, and local music got put in the back shelf. Fortunately, I was able to start a show, and then it got enough momentum and notoriety that nobody really that I worked for wanted to get rid of it, because that would have, it wouldn't have looked good. The optics wouldn't have been good. So right. I was able to keep it going over the course of 3 or 4 radio stations for like over 40 years, because it became a staple, and there was enough. I can tell you right now, I could play an hour of Syracuse bands, and you couldn't tell me if they were national acts or not. You wouldn't be able to tell. Production-wise, quality-wise, songwriting-wise, you couldn't tell. That's how good the music is in the area.
And your son is in that pile. His band's one of my favorites in town.
Oh, thanks. Mike has worked his butt off. He's been, it's hard to believe he's been in that band for over 20 years in Simple Life. And
yep.
Again,
really?
He's seen as one of the new guys around,
Right. Yes.
They were doing stuff with us back in the day. He was on one of our programs.
I do remember that. I didn't know it was 20 years ago, but yes. Yeah, I do remember him coming on. Absolutely.
Now You've got guys like Mark Doyle that are like 70 something putting out. His last album was fantastic. It's like, you got to be kidding me. And Gary Fournier has reinvented the Flash Cubes as the Half Cubes, and they're putting out albums that are being internationally recognized. I can't overemphasize how good the music scene is around Syracuse. The level of musicianship, not only from the people recording, but the people playing out, the Los Blancos of the world and the Phil Petrovs. And it's just, there's so many people that are making great music that people in Syracuse are spoiled. They're used to going out and seeing this music for free, and it's just crazy.
No, it's true. It is. The scene is alive and well. There's no doubt. Thank you, David, for your time today, man. That was you've been extremely generous and with your time and continued success. I hope that you get to 100 radio stations with your show. It's always been a tremendous program, and you've always been a tremendous asset to this community, and now you continue to do so, even from the wild outback of Florida.
Thanks again. I'm glad there's an audience. I think there's always going to be an audience for somebody that can curate music, for somebody that can put together music. And I wish there was a way to get more people doing that. It seems to be a dying art because it was never nurtured when it should have been. We should always be mentoring people to bring them up, and there were certain people that I would always look to and listen to. And now there's fewer people because radio became less relevant to that generation and those generations. And so those kinds of people aren't putting that kind of music together anymore. It's changing. It's always changing. I'm always curious to see how it's going to change, but I'm going to keep doing what I do as long as I can. And as long as there's, even 10 people out there that'll comment going, man, I heard something this week that I'm going to go out and buy. That's the best compliment I can get.
Yeah, I agree. I do. And we're still working toward our 10th viewer, but we'll get there. All right, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, Dave.
Thanks. It's always nice talking to you, Jim.
It's great seeing you, man.
You too.
One SU season is over. Another's about to begin, but we're going to talk about music with Brent Axe today.
Let's do it.
Actually, first, I do want to start out because you do have news about the SU basketball team, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, news is breaking. The Syracuse-Georgetown matchup will not take place in the upcoming schedule, which I have mixed feelings about. I think certainly that rivalry has been on borrowed time since Syracuse made the transition to the ACC, and I think they just kind of kept putting it on the schedule to appease the old school fans that remember and appreciate it, Jim. But there was only 17,000 people at the Syracuse-Georgetown game this year on a Saturday at the Dome. Okay, so that was a big – now, of course, this season attendance was down across the board for Syracuse. But remember, this is mid-December when maybe something could still happen. But that shows you how much people still care about this thing and how it's been dwindling and the relevance of it. I think it's an opportunity, Jim, to – I've had this idea, and I've been pitching the idea, and I don't even need credit for it. You don't even have to pay me for it, but it's just natural. Syracuse is playing all these games in New York City, right? Mm-hmm. But for some reason, it's always at the Barclays Center. Can we get back together at Madison Square Garden and have like a mini Big East reunion? Have like Syracuse play St. John's and have Villanova play UConn.
Yeah.
And then another year it could be Georgetown play Seton Hall. And you could just mix up with the old rivalries and have it in December. ESPN would love it. It'd be great programming. I'd rather see Syracuse mix it up and play UConn, even if it's not that. Play UConn one year, play Villanova one year, play Seton Hall.
Yeah.
Right? And the irony is they're actually decreasing the amount of ACC games this year from 20 to 18. So there's more room on the non-conference schedule. But Syracuse is playing in this tournament in Vegas this year, where they're going to play three. I don't have the teams right in front of me, but they're going to play three quality teams in that tournament, right? They're also locked into this ACC SEC challenge every year. So that brings in a quality opponent. So Georgetown was just kind of hanging in there for nostalgia purposes, Jim, but for your net ranking and everything you have to do in college basketball these days, it was not helping Syracuse at all.
No, I can see that for sure. Georgetown, the whole program has declined greatly. Hopefully the SU program picks up this year with the people they have coming in, but that remains to be seen. So the lacrosse season's over. Syracuse made it to the Final Four, which, it's so funny, Brent, because we talked about it before. They were very highly ranked going into the season. There's a lot of hope here in town that maybe they win a championship. And then they don't do great for a little stretch there. And I think people were like, wait a minute, maybe we're not even going to be in the tournament. And then things turned out really well for them.
It was a heck of a ride for this team. And all along, they always had the talent. The reason they were ranked number 2 in the country at the start of the season and why this team had such high expectations was they were loaded with juniors. They had one of the best players in the country in Joey Spallina, who was named second team All-American. He did not make the Tuarathon trophy. finalists. That's the Heisman Trophy of college lacrosse, which C.J. Kurse from Cornell is going to win. Like, just give him the trophy now.
Right.
But Joey should have been in that nomination. Joey had 90 points this year. He's only the 4th Syracuse player ever to have 90 points in a single season. Now, that being said, Joey got humbled a little bit when Syracuse played Maryland, a tough, hard-nosed defensive team that loves to grind you. It's a contrast of styles. So, but before that, Jim, before they got there, this is a team that Gary Gate loves to invoke the old philosophy of Roy Simmons Jr., right? Improvise, go behind the back, have fun, go out there, run and gun. And that can create some situations where you get into games where you commit a lot of turnovers, and more disciplined, hard-nosed teams that have good goalies can bite you. And that's what happened to Syracuse a little bit. But when they found themselves late in the year, that was the Syracuse I was waiting to see. And then they get into the tournament, and they have to complete this unbelievable comeback against Harvard, a team that beat them earlier in the season. That Syracuse-Princeton game in the quarterfinal at Hofstra, I was there on Long Island for that, is one of the greatest lacrosse games I've ever seen.
Oh, no kidding.
It is, unquestionably. It is the beautiful game, the fastest game on 2 feet at its best. 19-18, 2 teams, back and forth. Defense takes the days off, and let's just see who's got the ball last and scores. It was incredible. So they accomplished their mission. They got to the Final Four, right? They met the expectation of what Syracuse lacrosse is. But they also learned just how big of a gap there is between them and the 2 teams that played for the national championship, Cornell and Maryland. It was a contrast of styles. Maryland is a team you cannot make mistakes against, or they will get you in a vice grip and they will squeeze. And Syracuse just was not ready to play. They come out. Before you could snap a finger, Maryland goes on an 8-0 run.
Ugh.
It's 8-1. Any crowd that's there at Syracuse and Foxborough is out of it. And a 3-1 lead against Maryland is tough to climb out of, let alone an 8-1 lead. And they found a way to neutralize John Mullen, Syracuse's unbelievable face-off guy. He's the best face-off guy in the country. And they just kind of met their match, Jim. And I'll tell you what. He got to the Final Four, and I'm not trying to take anything away from how this team is run. But when you watch John Tillman from Maryland coach a game, and you watch Connor Busak from Cornell coach a game, and then you watch Gary Gate coach a game, it's very interesting how different they are. Gary Gate is the most hands-off coach I've ever seen. He lets his defensive coordinator run the defensive huddle. He lets his offensive coordinator run the offensive huddle. And much like Roy Simmons was back in the day, I think he's invoking this a little bit. Gary's very hands-off. I think he's got to get a little more involved. Gary's one of the great minds in the history of the sport, and I think he's got some things to say about what's going on the field, and he needs to get a little more involved. Because if you can get this far with a coach that is that hands-off on game day, imagine if he's engaged and he's into it and he can adjust some things and see some things. So they bring back everybody, Jim. Everybody.
Oh, great.
They're loaded with seniors next year. All the key guys are back. Jimmy McCool, their goaltender, Spallina. They lose a few key offensive guys. Owen Hiltz graduates, Sam English graduates, and a couple other key players. But they are loaded next year, and they have made a step every year on the ladder under Gate, right? They go from losing season to just missing the tournament to quarterfinal to Final Four. So what's the next step? You got to play on Memorial Day again.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. And congratulations to Cornell. I mean, we kind of overlooked them, but hey, that's a New York school, and congratulations to winning the championship.
First time since 1977. They were in the championship game 5 times since then and just couldn't get over the hump. C.J. Kurse just completed what is, I think, the best individual lacrosse season I've ever seen.
Wow.
He tied the points record. He didn't beat the points record. I wanted to see him do it, but making adjustments for the modern game and the fact that he's able to do that. He was the #1 pick in the PLL draft, the Premier League, which is the now Professional Lacrosse League. I mentioned he's going to win the Tourathon Trophy. But Cornell's loaded beyond C.J. Kurse with offensive talent. Ryan Goldstein, in particular, had a terrific Final Four overall and championship game. And it was interesting because on Saturday when Cornell played Penn State, led by West Genesee grad Jeff Tambroni, C.J. Kurse didn't score. They held him scoreless. And Cornell just goes right down the line. The 2 guy, the 3 guy, the 4 guy, they made up for it. But in the championship game, in the biggest moment, CJ Kerr scored 6 goals and showed why he's the best player in the country. And I am thrilled for Cornell. I am thrilled for Connor Busick. I am thrilled for all those dedicated, passionate fans in Ithaca to get their first championship since, how about this, Jim? The last time Cornell was national champions, the original Star Wars was in theaters. That tells you how long it's been.
Was it 77, 78?
77.
1977, baby.
Wow. That's amazing. Wait, so I'd like to see that Cornell-Syracuse become a rivalry like Syracuse has with anybody else. I'd like to see it become the #1 rivalry in the sport. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Syracuse has a lot of great rivalries, Johns Hopkins notably, and just those teams that you kind of see every year, some regional rivalries. The Hobart rivalry kind of died because Hobart just couldn't make the transition to Division I, but that's got the Krause-Simmons Trophy, and there's a lot of history there. But, man, Syracuse-Cornell, they have gone at it in recent years, and that's a good one. And you do want to see them on the schedule every year. I agree.
Yeah, excellent. All right, let's talk music. Let's talk about Dave Matthews Band because you're a Dave Matthews freak, and for those who don't know, Brent's a David Matthews freak, and who else is he like?
Springsteen, right?
Springsteen and
Springsteen,
Pearl Jam.
90s alternative rock. Yeah, that's my jam, man.
Now you were there last night, and from what producer Bill says, it was quite a show.
That is the best Dave Matthews show I have seen in Syracuse, New York.
Yes,
which,
definitely.
by the way, Bill, you know this because of how much they tour. That's only the 8th time that Dave has played Syracuse.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And I remember the first time was they opened up for somebody at the War Memorial. Was it Stone Temple Pilots?
So they played the Horde Festival in 1994, and at the War Memorial, I believe you're right. And then there was a show at the Landmark. I'm thinking they played with Big Head Todd and the Monsters.
Yep.
And there was another band there that night that I'm not recalling. And that show wasn't even sold out by the way.
At the Landmark. Wow.
But the night that changed my life with Dave Matthews was Tim Dave at Landmark.
Oh, what a show!
Which was like because it's the acoustic.
Yeah.
Which unbelievable. I get chills. And then I saw them again at CMAC about 10 years ago.
Tim Reynolds, by the way, who I don't think has officially been inducted into the band, but he just keeps showing up and playing with Dave every summer. It's incredible. And he is an unbelievable guitarist and
so unassuming.
and just the quietest dude. You'd walk by him on the street and never think he could rip a guitar like that. So it's interesting. Sorry to interrupt you, Jim, but I saw what was supposed to be the set list, and what they were supposed to start with was Old Dirt Hill, which they put in the encore last night. Which if they had come out with that song, I don't think it would have set the right tone because, Bill, you were at the show last night.
Yep. As soon as the first beat started, I'm like, holy shit, Warehouse.
As soon as he went into that beat and played Warehouse the way that they did, I turned to my wife and I said, he's got his fastball tonight. And think about it. 3rd show in 4 days. It's a Tuesday night after Memorial Day weekend. Everybody's like, Dave's going to chill tonight. No.
Not at all. Throttle down.
He came to party and extend the Memorial Day weekend. So it was absolutely the best Dave show I've seen in Syracuse, and it has to be one of the 2 or 3 best. And I've only seen him 36 times. And I say only, guys, because I talked to people there last night. Okay, I kid you not, and I put it in my review. A friend of mine has now seen Dave Matthews 209 times.
I got a friend like that too. My Dave Matthews buddy I went to high school with.
That's crazy.
I've only seen him a couple dozen times.
That's nuts. 200 times. That's crazy.
And the thing is with Dave is you could go tonight, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and it's a different set list every night.
Does Dave recognize him by now or what?
Hey, Brian, how you doing, man? Good to see you again. He must. Shout out to my guy, Brian, who can do that. But here's the thing. Why does Brian go 209 times? Why do I go 36 times? Because you'll never see the same song 36 times. It's the improv and the way that they change the songs up. The only consistent thing with Dave Matthews is, he's going to be on tour every summer, right?
That's it. He's constantly on tour.
He has been perpetually on tour since 1991. But I cannot put 2 Dave shows together as the same thing. The guesswork that goes into what the set list is going to be. And that's the thing. Like, they were supposed to start with Old Dirt Hill. They put it in the set list. And I saw somebody put a stat out there. Like, that's the first time they played it in some capacity since like 2005. right? So people are waiting for these hidden gems. But you know what? You know what this show was, Jim? It was just, if you were a guy like me in the 90s putting Under the Table and Dreaming and Crash in your Discman and wearing that thing out, it was all the hits. It was all the songs you want to hear. The only one he didn't play that people probably wanted to hear was Ants Marching. But everything else you wanted to play, and he was cooking, man. It was incredible.
I heard versions of songs that, like, I didn't think he had. Like, Don't Drink the Water was, like, on another level last night. Lie in Our Graves was just, and where it was and where it sits in the set list makes a difference too. What he came out of.
Listen to us nerd now, Jim. I
was just going to say, you guys are just nerds.
and there's not too many bands you can be nerdy like that with.
Well, that's true.
But that's it.
Yeah,
you can talk about Dave like you talk about a sports team in a way, and like the differences in the transactions and what songs in the set list. But they go with the Pantala Nagapampa intro, which you think Rapunzel's coming. Nope.
Right.
Boom.
From the greatest Dave album, Before These Crowded Streets.
Talking about
Dave plays So Much to Say, and to anyone seeing the bridge, you think they're playing too much, and they're doing this thing now where, Jim, remember the great song by Cameo, Word Up?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Rashad, baby.
Pretty
Rashad.
ladies around the world. You got Rashawn, one of the horn guys for Dave, who just goes into this song, and he sounds just like the band.
And he sings it, and if you watch him, he's just so stoic standing there singing it. It's the greatest thing ever.
So they go into all their songs, versions I've never heard of these songs. Dave sheds the guitar, gets up there, drenched in sweat, and he just plays Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. And kills it. Just kills it. And he's doing his, I can't even imitate
Peter Gabriel Sledgehammer.
Yeah, the Peter Gabriel Sledgehammer. The Dave Matthews dad dance that he does, I can't even imitate it. And it was just all the songs you wanted to hear, high energy, versions you haven't heard of them. And if you walked in there last night, like, I want old school Dave, that's what you got. And man, people were happy walking out of there.
And there's always, how the comments are on Facebook. There's always people that, shit on everything right across the board. Everybody was, especially if you're a Dave fan, it was like, this is one to remember. And you kind of hope that they'll put this one out as one of his live tracks. I don't think he has one from Syracuse yet. The live tracks album.
There's only 7 to choose from before this, but this
would be the one.
This was the one. And that's the thing, Jim, you could go to a show tomorrow and it would be completely different, a different vibe, a different set list, maybe things more from his newer CDs, but this was like, and I'm glad I brought my wife, and that's my wife. I want to hear Dancing Nancy's, Tripping Billy's, the songs that we all heard on the radio in the 90s. And that's what you got at that show last night. What a show. And all the shows that are going to follow at the Amp this year, you got a big one to follow up on, because Dave really set the tone.
That's it's a whole different thing than when he came before, because when he came here before, didn't he have like a couple days where people came and like camped out at the upper parking lot? Wasn't there people like they were there waiting for him to come for a couple days?
Well, it was the first time he played the Amphitheater was the biggest traffic jam ever. 690 people had to drop their cars off and walk across 690.
And let's be honest, Dave's audience is getting older, so getting out of there is clutch. That's why I got out of there in 2 minutes.
I was telling Jim, normally I try to get pit if I can, and we didn't. We're 2 rows behind the pit, and I told Jim, I said, you know what? It was actually good because I had a couple songs I took. I sat down for a couple songs and enjoyed it.
Wait, did you sit down in your rented lawn chair? Because remember, you can't bring lawn chairs.
No, I sat down
to
on
the
my
Amp anymore. Which, listen, come on, what are we doing here, guys?
I know
they want that extra $15 or whatever it is.
Come on, guys.
That line was the longest line at the concert. The line for the chairs,
really?
Yeah.
I walked in. I'm like, oh, the merch line is long. Oh no, that's the chair line. People want to sit in the lawn.
All right, that's enough. Somewhere along the line, I lost complete control of the podcast. That's all right. That's what friends do, right? We're just yakking. Thank you, Brent, for your time and your wrap up of the lacrosse season and of the DMB show. We'll talk again when football season gets closer. All right.
Absolutely, anytime, guys. You have a fantastic summer. I've been listening. Things sound amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you, bud.
We'll see you.
I had no idea that you guys were such geeks.
We're geeks.
To Dave Matthews Band. Holy cow.
That's why when we were doing the show and we got asked to broadcast live at the baseball stadium for Dave. That was like Christmas for me, because it's like you get to see I love the behind the scenes stuff.
Yep.
She's very shy. My friend Mary Jo, our friend Mary Jo.
Yep.
She's very unassuming. She's been working in the business forever, and I'd love her to come on and just give us some time and give us some stories of some of the backstage stuff. And she's been with everybody, big and small. Yeah. And I just love that.
Love to have her on. I'd love it.
But that's one thing. One big talk with the Dave Matthews fans is always the set list. So it's always like a guessing game.
So explain that to me.
So he's got so many. I mean, he's playing since early 90s, 91, 92. So he's got so much material. And Dave Matthews was never a radio huge hit maker. When he first came out, he had his run of K-Rock hits.
Yeah.
But then you kind of fall off radio, and it just becomes you make these great albums, and these songs just keep continuing. And it's the fan base hits. And he's not one of those that will play the same songs in the same exact order every night. So you kind of look at the set list from the previous shows, and you can kind of figure out where he's going like a puzzle. And even my friend Josh, who's one of the owners of Ravens Joint on 31, he's one of the biggest Dave Matthews fans I know. He's been a early warehouse member. So as early you are in his fan club is the better shot you get at the tickets. And it's even getting hard to do that now because there's so many fans. And he was even texting me yesterday trying to guess the set list. And you have the songs, and you don't know where they're going to be, but there was a few songs in there that were really shocker because when he does the shows, he doesn't pack them in of the songs that would be considered the mainstream hits. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of cool because we don't hear those a lot. Right. The hits because he doesn't play them, so we don't hear them a lot. So it was good. It was fun to navigate through the show and what's going to come next. And he was full of energy. His vocal teacher has done wonders with him, and that's a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Believe it or not.
All right, so let's talk about your other musical experience of the week.
So a couple months ago, they announced the Insane Clown Posse show at Syracuse.
I couldn't believe that they were going to be there.
Me neither. And they're a cultural icon.
Yeah, they're a cult figure, right?
And they've been around forever, since the early 90s. So my daughter's 13 years old, and I've never played one song in this house of Insane Clown Posse. I could only tell you the name of one of their songs just because it was part of wrestling or something. She comes, I want to go see ICP. And I'm like, you mean the Clowns? And I'm like, where did you hear this? So I guess it's like a thing now with younger kids again, because there was a lot of young kids at the show. So I begrudgingly took her to the show.
Now explain first who the Juggalos are.
So the Juggalos and the Juggalettes, that's the name of their fan base. That's what they call their, and they're rabid, man. They know all the words. They're painted up. They paint their face like the clowns. Violent J and Shaggy Two Dope are the clowns' names. And there were people at, and this, I'm not making fun of you because I think it's great because I won't ever do it. I've seen Kiss. Kiss is my band that I've seen over 40 times. Mm-hmm. And I've never once went to a Kiss show with my face painted.
Right.
That's okay. You can do that.
Right, do it.
But I saw grown men and women had their faces painted all of the Insane Clown Posse. Great. So I think this ticket was $40 or $50. I can't remember. I paid my dues at Sharky's enough. I was on the guest list for this for the show, and they have a boat. You know the boat that's that's Jim, the owner's. That's kind of his like VIP section for his friends.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted her to go and experience the show, but I didn't want her to be in the mess of the pit because part of the show is they have bottles of Faygo that they spray all over the crowd constantly, not just portions of it. Now there's 2 Faygo breaks where it's insane, where they take these buckets and throwing them all over the place. And there's willing individuals who want this stuff thrown on them. Great. I talked to Jim the next day, and he goes, "Billy, I walk in the restaurant, and there's a guy waiting to use the bathroom, and he's leaning against the pillar, and there's a puddle of Faygo underneath him." And I just asked him if he wanted to stand on a towel. So this program starts at 6 o'clock. Doors were at 5. Show starts at 6. Now, I played in Westmoreland on Sunday afternoon at this place called Seven Hamlets. You'd love it. Their beer is wonderful. It's a brewery. It's a local brewery. Great. So I conned my wife into taking my daughter, and I thought I was going to be able to get out of it then because I had the gig. I thought she was going to take her. No. She said if I didn't come, there would be problems. So I went from my gig. I went to things. So this thing started at 6 o'clock, Jim. I'm not kidding you. It was a full-blown wrestling card with the Insane Clown Posse's wrestling organization, Juggalo Championship Wrestling. Full ring, 16 by 16 ring. They set the stage up like an entranceway for wrestling. They were videotaping it for some web thing. They were having interview. It was a full-blown wrestling TV taping from 6 to 7:30. Matches. There was even a guy from the indie circuit that I knew, and then they were all good. It wasn't like these were. It was very entertaining, the wrestling.
Okay.
So that gets done at 7:30, and the ring announcer comes on. He says, "Folks, we gotta make a path from where the ring is to where the truck is off to the side." Jim, they got this thing down in a half hour. They had all the wrestlers were on it. They got the ring out. Boom, pull the ring. So now there's 2 music openers. So there's no band because it's rap music. So there's a DJ, and the first 2, Wacko was one of the guy's name, and Luigi something. It's all in, they're all in the same record label that Insane. So Insane Clown Posse has now made this empire with all of this rap music that they're known for. And there's a whole bunch of other artists now. It started out with the band Twisted. They were like the huge one underneath ICP back in the day. And it's just grown. They're all over the place. And they were terrible. Both of them were just, I don't understand. I didn't understand it. And I never really understood the style of rap that ICP was because they came out the same time as some of my favorites like Big E and Tupac, the legends. So from 6 to 7:30, was wrestling. They took them a half hour to get the rest of the ring down. So from 8 to 8:30 was the first guy, and then there's no band, so they come right out. So the other guy played another half hour. So at 9 o'clock, I see a tour bus driving in from the entrance of Syracuse. Had to be the Insane Clown Posse, 2 guys. So the whole time they got a big black screen curtain thing on half of the stage. They pull that off, and there's this huge big letters ICP, big stage set. They come in at 9 o'clock. 9:15, they hit the stage. Jim, they're out by 10:15.
Oh, man.
I heard through the grapevine that they sold $40,000 in merchandise in that 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 5-hour period. And the shirts and stuff weren't that. They had $30 shirts. They had really nice hockey jerseys that sewn their logo in it and the numbers and stuff. They were like $100. There was a big banner. Ari, she wanted a big. I don't get it. 40,000. No wonder these guys. And one of them has some health issues, and this is their kind of like their saying goodbye kind of tour. Their record label will live on, but they're done. So it was. I watched it, and I was thoroughly amused. I get it now. They're making that much money. If I was making that much money, I'd be in my 50s, early 60s. I'd be running around with makeup on, collecting.
Yeah.
Not any big problems with the crowd. There was one little scuffle at one point, but nothing. Everybody was cool. My daughter had her face painted up, and everybody, comes up to her, thinks she's cute. So, crowd's great. Great venue for it. I'd never seen him before. I'm glad. I would never go if it wasn't for her. But it was and for what you paid, you got a full day of entertainment for it.
Well, it's interesting because Sharkies, they're bringing in some pretty big names.
Huge.
Now,
Asking Alexandria was here a few weeks ago, and they're pretty big.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I think it's great. We've got so many new venues opened up for music. It's really, they're trying to do the F Shed again. They're trying to get that rolling again. The Ridge has turned into something really huge. It's
Beacon
great.
Skiff is
Beacon
look
Skiff.
at the
They
stuff.
bring national acts in, big acts. It's crazy. It's great. It's really great.
But all the shows at Sharky's are very reasonably priced.
Yes, they are. Yes, absolutely.
They got Color Me Bad. They got some All for One Color Me Bad, like a '90s thing coming.
That's wild.
They had 38 Special a few years ago. They had In This Moment, Seven Dust. They've had great entertainment at Sharky's.
Well, there's also interesting thing happening now in that you have I want to say stadium shows, right? You have Taylor Swift and all that. So you have the stadium shows. Then you have amphitheater shows, right? Like we have the Amp, and you get really good acts, and any of the amps, C-SPAC, SPAC, whatever. And then you have venues like Beacon Skiff, the Ridge. You can get, 2,000-3,000 outdoors, That's really become pretty big, that level of act and show.
And because of it's almost like on a private business kind of thing, you're not going through a ticket master. You're going through more of like a local ticket. And that's at Sharky's too. He has his own ticketing system for Sharky's.
Yeah, good.
SyracuseTix.com for all of their shows. And then he also all of these places like Beacon Skiff, The Ridge, Sharky's also support local. Going back to with Dave, bike night on every Thursday is huge for Sharky's.
Yeah,
he has local when there's not national acts. There's local acts on the big stage, and there's not. That's the biggest stage I think we have here in this area, and it's one of the best sound systems. Great sound company. That's the other thing too. The poor sound guy for that show because he had to get half of his stuff out that's in Sharky's for Sharky's to use because you don't want to get it damaged with Fago. And then I get a phone call. The guy who runs the sound there is also a guy that we use in Scars and Stripes, and he knew I went. He goes, "Did you see them spray the Fago right at the monitors?" I said, "Paulie, it's everywhere. It's at the monitor. They're literally during the songs." These people dressed as clowns would come out. They had case upon case upon case of the 2-liter bottles of Fago, and they're, shaking it, opening it up. It blows all over the place. They throw the bottle out in the crowd. Somebody's got to clean that up. Thankfully, not me. My poor friend Kevin Craw that works at Sharky's. He's one of the security guys at the gate. We have to go in at the fair. He's so good to us. I'm sure he had to be involved in getting that place cleaned up.
That's sticky. Oh,
I'll let you know tomorrow if we're playing tomorrow bike night, so I'll let you know.
All sticky. Oh my gosh, boy, Fago used to be good though. Red Pop, you ever have Fago Red Pop?
Back in the day.
Oh man.
Now I can just try to get my daughter not because of them. She wants to drink it, and that's a dollar store soda now, Joe. Jim, did you know that?
I did not know that.
They sell that at the dollar store for $1 can.
All right, that's enough.
These kids.
Enough. My stomach hurts. I've been laughing so much. That's enough.
You should have been there.
Oh, that's funny. Wow.
A lot of pot smoking.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some weed.
That's everywhere
smoked.
now.
I don't run into it that much.
You don't leave the house that much.
That's true.
That's all there is at concerts now. You almost feel bad for the beer vendors because that's taken over. It's just the Dave Matthews concert was one big clown last night. That's why we're geeks. That's why we're the way we are.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
I'm not putting Brent. I'm not putting Brent in that category. I don't know.
Boy, he's rabid, man. He loves him. Loves him. That's great though. To be that passionate about something's great. I think. And you're that way about Kiss, right?
I used to be. Kiss kind of like at the end of their run. They kind of got.
And Simmons has kind of turned kind of weird lately.
Yeah, well, he's always been weird.
Yeah, he's always.
I do like if you want to listen to something fun. Paul Stanley came out with a solo album a few years ago with Paul Stanley and Soul Station, but he does a Motown review.
Really?
He does some Motown covers, and then he has some originals that sound Motown. And friends of mine, the conspiracy is that those are old Kiss songs that never made it through. He just
could be
doo-wopped them up, and because that's all that. I mean, Kiss music was the Beatles formula. 3 chords and catchy riffs, and that's probably what it is. He just turned those put some doo-wop behind it, and he's all good.
Somebody had I don't even know who it is. they found 600 songs that he had written. Someone who had passed away, and they had 600 songs
Probably Van Halen, right?
that he had written and that never recorded.
Prince?
It's crazy. It could be Prince.
Yeah.
It could be
That's
Prince.
something Prince would do.
And yeah, wow. All right, that's enough. Jeez. Thank you for listening as always. This was probably our most fun one that we've had, and some good friends and good information for you too. So take care of yourselves, okay? God willing, we're all back at it next time on the Jim Reith Show Unleashed podcast.